There's a B stream and a C stream, and I think we had a couple of interesting games so far, but obviously throughout the day it will only get better. In the top right side of Tropical Sacrifice, for the first time today on the main stream, we are looking at the main base of our Canadian Zerg. Representing the Shopify Rebellion, this is Scarlett.
And that leaves us with our Blue Protoss player. In the bottom left corner of the map, we do have ourselves, of course, the one and only PtitDrogo.
I have to admit that I was a little bit surprised to see Drogo make the journey, as the boys on the desk already touched upon it briefly. Drogo is not officially retired, but he did make a tweet a while ago saying like, hey guys, I'm just gonna take it a little bit less serious. I feel like I'm not getting the happiness that I used to get out of playing the game full time. Don't want to put that pressure on my shoulders. And then you expect him obviously to still do a little stream, which is definitely what he's been doing lately. You expect him to play in a couple of the online tournaments just because that's convenient. You can do it from the own comfort of your streaming room or your own bedroom, whatever it may be where you play from. But to see him make the commitment to travel all the way from France to Atlanta surprised me a little bit, but I'm very happy to see him here.
Yeah, big trip, and I can't echo that further, right? It really is a bit of a surprise to see him. He played in 2 tournaments over the last 5 months or something, right? It's not a lot. He played in an Open Cup, he played in obviously DreamHack Masters Atlanta Europe, and that's it. We haven't seen him other than that since Home Story Cup, so it really has been a Drogo who has been kind of sitting back, not playing as much, but yeah, still committed enough to make a big trip and to try and earn some money, maybe some EPT points today.
Yep. Obviously, one of the beautiful things about these DreamHack Masters events, and that's something I think we're all very happy with, is that you don't need to finish in the top 8 or in the top 4 to make money. Those are things that I often dealt with in my Warcraft 3 days party, and it wasn't nice when you travel from the Netherlands to China, you play your heart out, and you have a top 6 finish, and you know what I win? 0! Like, the cool thing about this tournament is that the entire top 64 gets paid. Now, of course, you don't get a whole lot if you finish 64th, but that does really motivate these players, where it's like, okay, we don't need these crazy ludicrous runs to actually walk away with something. No, the majority of the field will get at least something for playing here. All you really got to do is, I think, win 1 series, and at that point you're already in the money. And Drogo maybe looked at this and be like, I can have a great time with my friends, I can have my favorite video game, I'm still pretty damn good at it. Top 32, top 24, it is actually still doable for someone with the experience and skills that Drogo has. But enough about Drogo and his career, and Scarlett, her career, of course, as we're going to take a look at this PvZ. I think seeing Drogo open up with the Stargate, first Oracle on the way, no surprises so far, Marty.
No, not really any surprises. The Oracle can lead you into so many different options in PvZ, and you know, on the desk they said Drogo, he likes to, you know, do one thing that looks the same twice in a row, but then hits differently, right? And that's what the Oracle lets you do. You open Oracle, it just looks fairly regular, and then he can hit you with a big timing after. You can play a bit more macro-focused. It does just give him so many different options. And Scarlett getting in with the circling early just confirms it is an Oracle opening as well, rather than any of this Twilight Council stuff we've been seeing more of again recently. Just nice to see that straight away. And obviously we're just going to be seeing Drogo continue to build those Oracles. His second one coming up, and we'll see if he stops there, if he wants to go for all 3.
I think Kalaras, Ben, and Ravi made a lot of good points over at the desk, and I definitely agree with Ben that even though Drogo can do a lot of different things, the man loves Zealots with +1 and Archons, trying to catch Zerg players off guard. We can also say that Scarlett is not super happy in general when she has to play some ZVPs. Actually quite funny. Last week I organized a little show match on the Friday night, an event that I call the Basilisk Big Brain Bouts, and I asked Scarlett like, hey, do you want to play? Final match of the day, people would be happy to see you play. Scarlett's like, who do I play? And I was like, well, I mean, I'm gonna find someone that's somewhat competitive. She's like, but please no Protoss. And I was like, well, I actually do have a Protoss lined up. And she's like, all right, just one time. And I made her play against Gerald, but she looked damn good in those games. They were fun, they were competitive, but in very different ways. Scarlett actually won the entire best of 5 3-0 pretty convincingly in the end, even though she really had to work for it. But she looked good throughout the early game, throughout the mid game, and she has some very good transitions in the late game. And when desperate times came around, she still found the 1 or 2 ways to still win. So I was actually kind of impressed and was very happy to see Scarlett in that shape, because that was a very solid best of 5 from her side.
Yeah, no, her PvZ or ZVP has been something that's been really fun to watch lately. You know, I feel like in the past it was this matchup where sometimes she'd just roll over in a little bit, right? Be like, oh, come on, the Oracles are doing too much. A couple of Adepts do way more than they should. As talk about Oracles, here we go, looking for a Queen kill, doesn't get it. Takes quite a lot of energy on the hit points off that first Oracle, so that's nice. The Queen can maybe target fire on the back, doesn't quite. Drogo taking so much damage and doing what? Getting one drone and a bit of Queen HP? Not worth those Oracles being so beat up.
Yeah, and the worst thing about that is not just the fact that he took some damage, but there was actually so much potential there for those 3 Oracles. I was very surprised to see Drogo targeting the Queen at first rather than going for the drones, but only 1 Queen and a Sport Crawler there with some good micro. A player like Drogo can easily take out 4 or 5 drones. And by the way, I think we're gonna have a bit of a classic from the past as Overlord Speed is close to finishing up. Scarlett is building a lot of roaches, 57 drones. That's a few more drones than Loco builds in most of his games, but Loco, I'm sure, is getting really excited already upstairs. He's watching these games as well, and he's like, this is my territory. So a very aggressive build coming out of Scarlett here in game 1. Drogo basically at this point A needs to identify this ASAP, and B, Wardy, he needs static defenses, nothing but batteries, cannons, but we don't have any of that so far. Sniping this Dropper Lord would be big though.
Okay, he's gonna get it. Scarlett doesn't unload. Okay, just 1 Queen, but the Lings and Roaches are all here and the Stalkers are in the middle of the map, so yeah, you snipe 1 Overlord, but all of your units are in trouble. No blink just yet, so no way out for these Stalkers easily. I mean, they pull off to the side, but that means the run to the natural is completely free and wide open.
Yeah, only 4 Queens right now though, so maybe there is potential for these Oracles to actually eventually start making the difference, right? Obviously Queens can only transfuse on creep. I would really think Activate Pulse Beam there almost immediately. Scarlett's going to morph a few more Roaches into Ravages. Very spicy first game here of the tournament, at least for us here on the mainstream. It's a lot of army supply for Scarlett, not a whole lot for Drogo. And I'm just kind of, we are lacking the static defenses here, Waddy. A couple of cannons, couple of batteries, that will make the Protoss life so much easier.
He is about to get blinking +1, but can he really sustain this? Those few Stalkers on the natural are helping, but they're not really in the greatest of positions. And obviously Scarlett's going to go deep over here, and she's going to find the triple kill almost on those batteries. They take a lot of shared damage from those corrosive vials. A few more vials coming down as Stalkers are stuck, batteries are dropping, and this third base begins to be broken. We still got some damage to do though for Scarlett to be okay coming out of this, but she is still coming across the map with a lot of Lings, and her Ravager count is still amazing here on the front lines.
Should be very easy for Scarlett to just get a few more workers, and if we can get up for like 15-20 probe kills, which is what Scarlett is already getting at this point, I think we can say that this attack is a success. But then again, Drogo is building probes non-stop, so his economy is actually still decent, but there are just not too many units left here for Drogo, and then it's not so much about the Ravages anymore, it's about all these Zerglings that are so quick to reinforce all the way to the other side of the map. Scarlett on powering 4 gateways as well just makes it more and more difficult for Drogo to stabilize, and I'm afraid that this one is all over, Wardy.
Yeah, denying that production is a big part of this. That was what was allowing Drogo to stay competitive in the supplies, keep on warping in. This will not be enough for Drogo though, and Scarlett wastes no time at all, being extremely decisive, picking up a nice quick first game victory and putting herself up 1-0 in Group Stage 2.
We've seen her play a lot of strong ZVP macro games lately, where I feel like she's more fond of the lurker than a lot of the other top tier Zergs in the European scene or even the NA scene. But when it comes to NA Zergs, Scarlett is kind of in a league on her own. I like watching that style, so I was kind of hoping that we are going to see a little bit of lurker play, you know, maybe some Ling Ravager Bane at first, but then a slow and steady transition into that hype that I know she's incredibly good with. Well, she's bringing back basically a German classic over her teammate, the German Uber, or the German taxi as we called it. It's not that popular anymore since the Queens can only drop transfusions right now on the other side of the map if you actually manage to spread creep in the first place, and that's why it fell out of fashion a little bit. But yeah, maybe Scarlett just felt that Drogo was going to be greedy, and perhaps he's not particularly impressed with the Oracle movement or something, because if Drogo was able to just pick up on this a little bit quicker, then you don't just get 3 batteries all connected to each other, which means they all die to a single set of corrosive vials, but you spread them out a little bit more, you get a couple of cannons, because the biggest problem for Protoss there is the lack of DPS, right? And that's where cannons can really come into play until the extra gateways kick in, until Blink is finally done. And that really makes a difference between reducing the size of the Zerg army or just kind of shooting, but then the Queens are just transfusing the Stalker shields and nothing's really dying on the side of the Zerg.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. You saw that Drogo was able to survive until Blink, and he looked kind of good with Blink as well. It was just, there was still too much Zerg left over. There still was just a bit too much overpowering, and Scott was then able to keep the power up, keep the reinforcements coming, close out that game 1, Game 2, we're going to Cosmic Sapphire. Some pretty big maps, and obviously Cosmic's a pretty nice one for Zerg. It's big, you've got that gold base over in the corner as well. There's a bit that Protoss can do, kind of coming down the sides of the map and kind of, you know, working down that watchtower pathway, but in general, I feel like this is a pretty nice map for Scarlett's second game.
I really wonder what Drogo is going to do. I do absolutely expect him to open up with the Oracles once more, because even before that was the meta, Drogo was already a lover of the Oracles. But we could very well get a different follow-up. Like, it could be some Zealots with charge, it could even be something a lot more extreme. I kind of would like to see him play some Glaives, because that is obviously right now all the rage again, which kind of fell out of fashion. Everybody plays Oracles for a year straight. There's another big tournament happening with a couple of world-class Zergs, Raynor and Cero, in a group with world-class Protosses. And the Protosses are like, so you guys think we're going to play Oracles? Nothing but Glaives, 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 Glaives. And they made it look really good. It slightly different, it hit harder. The execution was just better than Protoss players have done it in the past. I don't know if Drogo is willing to do that if he hasn't played a whole lot. He might not feel that comfortable with it, but I wouldn't hate seeing it here in Game 2.
The variety on it as well, right? Because there was like 3-gate Glaives, there was a delayed Glaives, there was 6-gate Glaives, there was the traditional 4-gate Robo Glaives. You've got to prepare so differently for each and every one, and that's the kind of thing that Drogo might like to take advantage of. And hey, Scarlett is the player that rocked that kind of Adepted tag on the NA server for a very long time. Definitely wasn't a fan of the Adepts back then.
No.
And can't imagine that's changed recently.
It's definitely, I think, scarier and more annoying as a Zerg to play against on the smaller maps, Waterfall, Inside and Out, because that's really, they shade ones out of the natural, and they are on the edge of creep, and they will start working on your queens. Maybe on a map like Cosmic, because technically all 3 big maps were left in. It was Tropical, Cosmic, and Data Sea, literally the 3 biggest maps that we could play on. Probably going to be Oracles once more. Just, yeah, StarCraft 2 is a brutal game, as we all know. Drogo, I think, had a big opportunity with that triple Oracle. That should have been 4 or 5 workers falling. And if that would have happened, then Scarlett, her attack shows up a bit later. Maybe there's a chance Drogo sees it earlier. Then you have more time to space out those batteries a bit better and get those cannons we mentioned a few times. But I digress. Let's go ahead and hop into Game 2 in the top left side of Cosmic Sapphire. We're looking at the main base of the Canadian Zerg. Looking good so far. 1-0 lead for her. Representing the Shopify Rebellion, it's Scarlett.
Representing Alta in the bottom right, our blue Protoss player coming all the way from France, it is PtitDrogo.
I do think an event like this for Scarlett still feels a bit special, right? Because he's been the NA hope for so long, and we can go back all the way to the IPL days where Scarlett already made her first appearances in some of these open events back then in the American scene. And of course we had our MLG phase, and we had a couple of IEMs, I guess, in the North American scene as well. But, you know, a big DreamHack Masters Atlanta in NA. It's gotta feel special for Scarlett. Even though she's been here, done that, I think these are the events that do get her more motivated than an other random big StarCraft 2 event.
Especially when that crowd shows up, Roddy. I mean, they were hyped for cats throwing markers into the crowd. I can't imagine what they're going to be like for some actual good old StarCraft 2.
I'm with you, matey.
Nice little standard opening. Nothing wild going on. And we'll wait to see what Drogo's tech wants to be, of course. Once that Cyber Core comes online, see what sort of direction he'll take it in. Will he just stick with the Oracles? Will he go diving into some Glaives play? Scarlett obviously doesn't really need to mix it up at all early as well, right? Like, yeah, you can hit some timings, but super early like this, she just wants to get set up into a standard game. In a best of 3 like this, it isn't time to bring out those crazier, weirder builds that try and kill people in the first 4 or 5 minutes as a Zerg.
No, if you are sitting on something as a player like Scarlett, where there's a specific build where you're like, I know this is going to be good, but I think I can only get away with this once or twice in an event. You don't really want to do it in the opening match of the second group stage, because this is a tough group, make no mistake. Zaun in this group, JC in this group as well, a couple of strong Protoss players together with Drogo. But we expect Scarlett to go deeper than this, obviously. A top 32, absolute bare minimum, but I personally think that anything less than a top 16 would be a bit of a disappointment. Drogo obviously has a lot less pressure, but I do think that if Scarlett has a few things that she's absolutely in love with, she's actually going to hold back a little bit on using those kinds of special builds until we get a bit further into the event.
Absolutely. Stargate's about to finish, and these Lings get in again.
Yeah,
I mean, just giving Scarlett free information. She doesn't have to sacrifice an Overlord, just gets straight in, gets to have a scout. An Adept across the map will not get a drone just yet, should get one now at least, but one drone, Adept dies, and a couple Lings being annoying, forcing a probe pull, just little things in this early game.
I think one probe probably went down as well, right? Can't really imagine Yep,
Yeah,
so
okay.
we lost the Pro, we lost an Endeavor. Yeah, this is not a very pretty start for Drogo. And none of this is game ending, but if you are the underdog, you're really looking for the good starts, where you snipe a creep tumor, you snipe a drone, maybe even 2 drones, and then you save the adapts, you show up a little bit later. And even though these adapts are not ultra important at this point, they do help in A, making your life easier when it comes to expanding, and B, a little bit later, if you go double or triple Oracle, 2 adapts can really create a sweet little wombo combo, right? They just blindly shade into the natural, triple Oracle goes into the main base, a much bigger chance that you find a lot of damage than when it's just the Oracles, and Scarlett is obviously going to spread her overlords in an excellent manner, which is always going to give her the heads up and kind of allows her to keep track of these Oracles.
Yep, just, I mean, perfect information gathering. We're even going to pop the pulse up, even to not get a single Zergling, just pushes them away. And again, it's that energy which this early you kind of just want to see making its best use of, right? And now it's just going to be that little bit tougher. Third Oracle is on the way out, and the first 2 are hunting to try and get something done across the map here. Can they find some drones? Can they find that mineral line that's a bit too exposed? The Queen is coming back to defend this natural, so is the other one, and an immediate Evo chamber just to save that first worker. Will lose one, but oh, the Queens have more damage going out. Oh, it doesn't quite catch it though.
Really good play by Scarlett here so far though. This Oracle does spot the Evolution Chamber in the main base, so that's gonna give Drogo the information that this will most likely be +1 melee, and we can see that it's +1 melee. He can obviously not see that from his point of view, but anything else doesn't really make any sense. So he can put 2 and 2 together. But that was very sweet Queen defense. Like, I often talk about it whenever I'm casting games at home. I was like, the first 6-7 minutes of ZVP, not super interesting to watch from a spectator point of view, but it is a work of art when you see the best Zergs in the foreign scene just barely take any damage, and then you see Zerg players that are good, but a little bit less good than the, you know, Reynard, Serral, Lambo, Scarlett, and then you see the Oracles just sniping drone after drone, and you're like, damn, Oracles is so good. Scarlett is making this all look easy. It's not easy, but she's clearly on top of her game so far.
Oh yeah, absolutely. She is rocking it up until now as this hatchery sets up on that left-hand side, so going straight to 4 bases, and we're going to start seeing that link count increase with that melee upgrade getting ever closer, just going to be able to start pressuring a bit, of course, and then you're going to see the Balin Nest, the Lair, all of that tech now setting up for the future. I mean, we do see Drogo going into charge, Templar Archives, a bit of a Zealot Archon on the way following all of this, but that's where the Balins are great, because the Balins can just crash through the Zealots, and if the Zealots aren't there, the Archons don't really get to stand around for too long.
Yep, but I do think it's important for Scarlett to figure out that this is actually what's happening, because he can't just assume that it's going to be Blink Stalkers again, because playing only Ling Bane, yeah, you need the Roach one, exactly. It's not because she really wants to play Roaches, but you can't really rely on only Ling Bane Queen against Zealot Archon. Sometimes it works if the Protoss players mess up and too many Zealots are clumped up. But if the Protoss player does a good job in spreading out their units and maybe a Prism shows up in the main base, you warp in a couple of Zealots there as well of like 6, 8, 10 gateways, then it actually becomes very difficult to find good fight after good fight with just Lings and Banes. So I think it's super smart that Scarlett did drop the Roach Warren, quickly realizing that, hey, wait a minute, not the same build as game 1. I'm going to probably need a couple Roaches here, even if I didn't really want to. It's just the right thing to do.
Gets killed drones that were AFK on that base, so knocking those down quickly as Ling's still scouting for that opportunity to run into a mineral line if one is given, but Drogo's defense is pretty respectable. It is obviously kind of threatening to keep some of the units of Drogo at home as well, just those Lings being on the map, and give Scarlett more time to get into those speed upgrades, +2 melee. She sees a couple of Archons coming around the left side as well, so knowing that is nice, and now she gets to see those Zealots, and it might be time to start prepping maybe a couple Banes alongside those Roaches.
Scarlett, her economy, I think, is fantastic, and I don't think that she's going to struggle all that much with this. He is going to be forced to evacuate the drones for a split second, but there are so many units on the way for Scarlett, and obviously for Drogo, you're not exactly sure what's waiting for you up there. Drogo really wants to get the hedge, but Transfuse is good. Banelings are going to come in, but good movement there on the Zealots. But the Zealots do show up one more time. I do think that Scarlett is playing this about as well as he possibly could. There come the Banelings, big connection on the Zealots, and I have the feeling that Drogo's attack is getting absolutely shut down here. Scarlett is playing a perfect game 2 so far.
Nuked down all of the Oracles as well, so they are gone. This was the most effective stasis ward that went down. The first one only caught 1 Baneling, so just great across the board from Scarlett. Evacuated, bought some time, got into position, didn't let her Balins crash into what they didn't want to crash into. Yes, Drogo played well against it, but she made sure to keep them, and eventually they found the Zealots. The Archons were left on their own. The Oracles are dead, and that's really tough for Drogo moving on from here.
It was a lovely little dance where both players technically did the correct thing. It's just that time was on the side of Scarlett, and the longer it went on and the more they both did what they were supposed to do, it was going to favor the defender. All the immediate reinforcements show up, and the Queens, they were just not in any danger because the Zealots, they wanted to participate in the fight, but they couldn't because then the Banelings were there, and Archons, yes, they are great against Queens, but they don't have that killing potential immediately, and if the Queens have that much energy, they just kind of stand there, they buy a lot of time for the Zerg player. And I think Scarlett handled that in a beautiful manner. +2 melee is now close to finishing up, by the way, Wadi. Big upgrade, I believe.
Yeah, I heard it can one-shot probes.
No way.
With those Banelings, little round things. He's sick.
You're lying to me right now.
Nah, that's how it works, man.
Well, that sounds pretty good. It's going to be tough for Drogo to keep those works alive. Nice storm, though, on the left side. The second storm more of a zoning storm, but that first one absolutely connected.
Yes, it did, as we have this, obviously, fight waiting to happen, basically. A few more Banes coming in. Scarlett has the economy just, well, spam units, essentially, and Drogo realizing he needs to just get a bit of a wall off up here to help. Scarlett will spot this little run-by coming in, so we'll see what she has at home to deal with that. As right now, Drogo is pushing forward. I feel like that is a little adventurous, though.
Seems like Scarlett is looking for a couple of Baneling drops, right? The Lings are going to morph into Banelings on the right side. Dropalord will drop them. And once more, the Banelings with +2, they are devastating. Lovely rotation here of the army. We do have a couple of storms go down. Scarlett, if she wants to stick around, needs to take care of this battery overcharge, and she will. And this is now going to hurt because the Banelings are going to connect with those workers. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide for those poor, sad little probes. And then there's 19 workers and a bunch of gateways going down.
Yeah, the only good news for Drogo is he gets rid of the last few Banes for free, essentially, but come on, as the Baneling drop gets shut down over there. Drogo does have some Zealots across the map, got work to do, though, to make up for the workers he has lost. Scarlett is retreating, so this shouldn't go on too long, but 12 drones already, not a bad start, as Roach Ravager lane continues across to start cleaning this up.
And don't forget, this is not Hive-Tech Zerg. Drogo actually already has Storm. I'd say at this point, if I was Drogo, try to slow the game down a little bit. Sure, push back the creep, but make sure you get a couple cannons, get a couple batteries, give yourself some vision. Because Scarlett is, in a weird way, on the clock a little bit. Like, her army is about as good as it will be for a very, very long time. Few missile attack upgrades are not really going to make the difference. It looked super good for Scarlett, but Scarlett needs another victory right about now. Otherwise, I'm going to start favoring Drogo in this game.
Oh, absolutely right. I mean, her tech just isn't there. You see the infestation pit starting. It will just take a while to come online, so she needs something to slow Drogo down. A win to offset some of these tech units before they just get stacked up to numbers that you cannot fight with this army, because that will give Drogo a massive timing window. Here we go, starting to move through. First storm top side will zone out a little bit. Scarlett just getting some biles, just picking some bits and pieces off and opening some pathways.
I believe there is a bit of multi-prong happening. Banelings is crashing into Archons on the bottom side. That's not good enough for Scarlett. Nice storm again for Drogo. One very low HP Archon is perhaps getting a bit too brave, but Drogo's doing a very good job here in making this defense look relatively easy. I don't think Drogo's working with too many observers. That's kind of hard for us to see, but maybe Njal could show us quickly if he's the one who is observing. Yeah, 0 ops. That's kind of wild, man. How on earth are you playing against +2 Banelings with 0 ops, Wardy?
Yeah, I mean, just keeping your armies pre-split permanently, I suppose, but that's obviously super risky. Scarlett's not, taking advantage of it yet, but if she threw everything onto the left side there and Drogo didn't know, he loses a base before he gets there to defend it, and a lot of units in the process. So yeah, super dangerous game, and still just favoring building even more Immortals.
Yep, I mean, that army is obviously going to be absolutely terrifying from Drogo. Scarlett does have her tech on the way now. We could potentially get a couple of Broodlords. Broodlords would be fantastic against the army that Drogo currently has. And since Drogo does not have a fleet beacon, it's going to be very hard to get a proper answer. I think at this point, Scarlett will just try to buy time, right? Pretend that she wants to be aggressive. Pretend that she's willing to commit. But all that Scarlett really wants to do is just dance a little bit in the center of the map. Kite the army, maybe use some of her APM to force out a couple of mistakes. Nice warpins there by Drogo, but the army in the center of the map has kind of been abandoned, and this is definitely a little victory for Scarlett.
Yeah, this is what she's looking for. Get rid of some of those tech units. Now all the storms on the left side as well, not really hitting anything. All the High Templar just wandering forward as well, so Drogo's losing a lot of them for free. We blink forward to get some kills in the end. Corrosive Biles landing as well. Drogo's had a few moments in this game where Corrosive Biles have just landed all over his army.
We still just don't have any observers, so it's so hard for Drogo, even if he wants to be aggressive right now after a skirmish like that. And yes, he lost a lot of expensive units, but this is still a big, bad Protoss army. As we're going to take a look at a little bit of first-person action from both players. After the mid-wadi, the older I get, the more dizzy I get following these players. And I'm like, they're all so fast, What happened to leaning back and just clicking a little bit? As I do believe we had another skirmish around the Zelnaga Watchtower. We are going to see some of these Baneling drops, but Scarlett has now successfully breached a very scary 2 or 3 minutes, made it up to Hive. Can start a great Aspire, as he's actually been finding victories in a phase in the game where I actually thought Drogo's army was a lot better.
100% with you. She really did everything that she needed to help herself out here, and maybe take the concave on this fight as well, make it awkward for Drogo getting stuck in that choke point. She does have the drop heading toward the main, or could turn into the third base. I think that's what's about to happen. So Balin's about to land on the third mineral line. She's still threatening with the army as a distraction, and Drogo doesn't see the drop coming in. And yeah, those Balins are still one-shot probes already, unfortunately.
18 workers spawn. It's kind of awkward for Drogo because a lot of his units are just in the center. That's going to make it hard for Scarlett to retreat. But Scarlett can obviously run towards the bottom left side. And just needs to make sure that he doesn't lose all her units at once, because Scarlett does not have a very big bank party, and Drogo is still relentless with his counterattacks as well, as these Zealots are finding more and more workers, and Scarlett could still be in some trouble, despite all the awesome moves that he pulled off in the last few minutes. Again, that's a lot of spines, and that is definitely needed, but these Lings do not show up in time to save this head on the top side of the map, and Drogo, with no regard for all these spine crawlers, is just sending it.
He is indeed. Scarlett needs time for Balins to finish and all the rest. She might lose another base here, and it's a tough time to be losing this base. Actually lost on the right side. Those Balins just trying to sneak out of the storms, and honestly got a bit lucky that some of them morphed in time to save themselves. But yeah, Scarlett's losing bases. Her economy, like you said, is not great, right? She doesn't have the bank to rebuild. She just lost that little bit too much in that previous fight, so all of a sudden, she doesn't quite have what she needs to fight, and this Archon count is just ridiculous at this point.
Yep, and that makes it very hard for the Banelings to still find value. They found value against probes, but in the straight-up fights, we have Corruptus on the way now, but unless I'm crazy, we don't have a Great Aspire, right? I didn't see that at all.
Yep.
So why are we making Corruptus already?
I do not know. Maybe she thought she built a Great Aspire.
Oh, that's pain.
Unless she just wants to get rid of the Prism, but that's a commitment at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is some, yeah, maybe you're right.
But then what are the Corruptors going to do? Yeah, no, I mean, Grey Aspire would be ideal. Definitely doesn't really have the time to get into the Grey Aspire, but I mean, what else are you going to go for? At this point, your army that you have doesn't really cut it, so you just got to try and buy some time to get there, but obviously Drogo is aware of that as well and wants to try and keep up the pressure. But I mean, if Scarlett doesn't do anything, then Drogo's also just in no rush.
And it can be sometimes a bit hard to finish a game with an army like this if you're Drogo, because this is not a Protoss army that has crazy micro potential, right? You gotta just need to be defensive, you don't want to get kited into oblivion. It's very hard to move an army with this many Archons, but it is very tanky, so even if you make like a misclick or two, you're going to be okay. And Scarlett is getting shots up, but it really does feel that this Protoss army is just never going to run out of steam. The Stalkers, they will blink forward. That's the one unit with some micro potential, and now it's all about just letting the Archons and Immortals get a couple shots off. They don't even need to be fighting non-stop. You just want to land the storm, have a forward blink, and Drogo, with a very impressive game 2 body, ties things up.
Yeah, he looked good, right? I mean, a couple scary moments initially, but once he held off that first wave, he just kept it under control. Yeah, he lost some probes here and there, but he was always rebuilding them. He never really took a bad fight after that, right, as well. He was always able to get some good connections onto Scarlett's army and just make the most of it. And yeah, ties up the series 1-1. So we're tied up and readying ourselves for Game 3 on our very first match of the day.
Honestly, a very good opening series for a 3-day tournament. We've had plenty of Fridays in the past where after a 6 or 7 series, we look at each other and like, well, what's the best series of the day?
Yeah.
And you kind of have to dig deep, and there wasn't really a whole lot. And then we all sit in the shuttle going back to our hotel. We're like, well, I'm sure tomorrow is going to be a lot better. But this is already a fun one, and it's one that actually matters as well, because this is a tough group. The 2 other Protosses in this group are good, and wow, we have a bit of a surprising result in this group, H, don't we?
Yeah, we have Yeshi taking down Zaun 2-1. So if you lose this current series, you're playing Zaun in an elimination match to go down in the knockout bracket. That is not fun at all. We also have some other results that are very fun as well. I think nice 2-1 Gung Fu Banda.
Surprise for sure.
Yeah, that's a little bit surprising too.
Wow.
Awesome 2-0.
And Beyond took out Papi Joe.
I was trying to read the rest of the groups to see what you were pointing out, but well, didn't think it was that one, mate.
Lambo's off to a good start in Group C. So far, the Shopify Rebellion showing up in a pretty strong way. Solar also getting his first little victory. There are a lot of groups, and it's all very difficult, of course, to follow. But in between these series, while we have players getting off stage and new players are setting on stage, we'll do our best to kind of talk you guys through and give you at least some of the updates. But you know, there are 20, 25, 30 games happening at the same time, so it's kind of hard to cover everything. But Yeah, definitely a couple of fun results, and I gotta give kudos to Nice, man. I always feel that Nice kind of gets underrated by a lot of European fans and even some of the European players, but more often than not, when Nice plays against good Europeans, maybe not like the top 5, but anybody below the top 5, that man has a very good win record against some of the finer players that Europe has to offer.
Dude is pretty solid. As we get ourselves into this game 3, though, ZVP is ready to continue. In the bottom left from the Shopify Rebellion, we have got Scarlett.
Data C looks so pretty. I've never seen it look that pretty on my own monitor. In the top right side, we're looking at the main base of the Frenchman. He is not full-time, not 24/7, all-out StarCraft 2, but he still plays pretty damn good, as we've seen so far in these first 2 games. Give it up for PtitDrogo.
That, Roddy, is the power of being able to enable extreme graphics, I think.
Yeah, I've never seen a map look like this. This actually reminded me a little bit of some of the Pokemon graphics that I've been looking at over the last few days. I don't know if they can summon a random Pokemon or not, but it'd be pretty nice, you know. A couple Banings roll in, you're like, I choose you, Pikachu. Bam! That's the RTS that I want to play, baby.
StarCraftamon.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be good. Be a good game, you know it.
I'd be down.
You know what was interesting in that previous game as well? At one point we already kind of touched upon the fact that Scarlett could potentially be in a bit of trouble because obviously she didn't have that much money and she was kind of stuck. Now, the 2 minutes after we said that, I felt that Scarlett almost did everything right. She found some pickups, she dealt some economic damage, she didn't really lose any units herself, successfully made it up to Hive. But then we kind of took what turned into the game-deciding fight. Right when the Hive finished up, right when the Spire finished up. We didn't get any value out of the Spire whatsoever. So it was a shame that Scarlett did such an amazing job in buying time for herself. And then right when she pretty much did it, it all fell apart by committing as hard as she did.
Yeah, and I don't even think she wanted to, right? She was just distracting for the Bane drop to do well, and then she just couldn't quite get her units away.
Yeah.
So the idea was good, just Drogo able to get the catch that he needed to stop it from just taking full advantage of the situation.
Yeah, and kudos to Drogo as well for sort of getting that flank there in the bottom side, because half his army was in the center, and I was like, this doesn't seem like that great of a fight for the army that you still have defending your base at 6 o'clock, but storms are just really good, and then obviously a couple of stalkers in the mix blinking forward. And then I love that Drogo was decisive afterwards, where he's like, that was a good victory. My Zealots still found some success on the top side of the map. We gotta go for it right now, and a couple of spines did not intimidate him. And I gotta say, one thing that I was truly surprised by, I know we had few oracles in the beginning, but the lack of observers, yet this wasn't one of these games where the entire map was covered in creep, right? And that's normally something that we have been praising Scarlett for years. And of course you can still deny creep, even if you don't have observers or oracles, just because you have a couple of Zealots, creep 2 leap forward, Zealots snipe them off and they continue their mission to harass. But I was surprised by the lack of crazy creep threat, despite the fact that we barely had any ups.
Yeah, no, it was actually very limited, all things considered, right? As an Adept here, gonna wander up this ramp, and the Queen will start to nibble away at said Adept as it goes for some kills. It will not get one just yet. Micro is good from Scarlett, and the Adept shades out, so no losses at all. A little bit of minerals, obviously building those spores and cancelling, but yeah, great first defense.
Yeah, you're also not too upset here if you're Drogo, right? You're like, oh, well, force you to make 2 buildings you didn't want to make, and I kept my Adept alive. That's the most important thing. If you shade in 2 Adepts, then you do absolutely want to find some damage, but a single Adept like that, good scout. Scarlett can definitely be cheeky in the final game of the series. We think back of the DreamHack Masters Valencia, where she had a pretty amazing best of 5 against her teammate Harstem. And then in that 5th game, I think it was Data C even, if I recall that correctly, Scarlett sent a couple of Roaches, Lings and Ravagers to the other side of the map, like 3.5, 4 minutes in, and I still remember the smile of Harstem, like, he got me, you know, as he picked up on the lack of scouting when it came to certain build orders. And obviously very committed, very aggressive, all-in build, but it worked back then, so it's good to see that Drogo is playing it safe and is getting deep into the main base to make sure that something like that ain't happening.
Yep, good information that he had. Obviously these Lings are causing chaos over here. The Oracles have been low on energy, and that's another probe going down. We have the Nexus take a bit of damage already as well. So Scarlett just playing well with these Zerglings, and there's a couple of Stalkers get here to defend. The Oracles are going to go out on their mission to once again try to find some early game damage. Let's see what Scarlett's defense will look like, as she has plenty of Queens in the main. And that's where the Oracles are headed to.
Really important that Scarlett is on the money once more, because Drogo is clearly playing very good after not having the best starts. This time around, Drogo will go for a few drones immediately. And this is already better Wadi than what we had in the previous games. Now that was maybe not the best choice. I think the first attack was totally fine, but then trying to turn around with the 2 full HP Oracles, that didn't really work out. But it's still a better start than Game 1 and Game 2.
Yeah, he gets a lot more out of it, that's for sure, as Scarlett going to drop a macro hatch in the main. The lair and the melee upgrade. That's going to be our setup to kind of just follow up what we had in the last game as well, right? Ling, Bane, if she sees it's going to be charged lot Archon, then probably going to get that Roach roaring down. And it is going to be that charge once more here from Drogo.
This map is, of course, a little bit smaller than Cosmic. We do qualify Data C as a big map as well. Scarlett needs to make damn sure that her Roach Warren is on time, because with just Lings and Banes, yes, it can work if Drogo goes too quick, if his army's not that big, but if he attacks with 4 Archons and you don't have any Roaches, you are going to be in serious trouble. And there is a good chance that Scarlett is expecting Blink and +1 to be the follow-up, right? Because Drogo has done that. That is kind of considered to be the mana. Yeah, very quick Templar Archives going down. Do we have any Overlords? Yes, one is chilling in a natural still, correct?
Yep. Just been watching out here and obviously keeping an eye on one of the gases, but hasn't really told it too much as Ling gets taken down and Drogo going to look for the 4th.
By 2 Stalkers, Wadi. That is actually very important. By 2 Stalkers. So at this point, Scarlett may be reading this as it is going to be Blink Stalkers. And Max Pax was the first one who actually did this in a super cool way in the game against Raynor. I love it. It was really one of my favorite moments of the year. Even though Raynor was in my house and he was very pissed at me at that point. But it was cool because Max Pax went all the way up to like 5 or 6 Stalkers before ever warping in any Zealots. Because now Scarlett is going to see, wait a minute, you're not going for Stalkers at all. It's clearly about Zealots and High Templars and whatnot. As we do have a Lurker then going down immediately, but yeah, Max Pax played a pretty extreme all-in, making it look like it was Stalkers, suddenly it was Zealots. I loved it, but the build was honestly too good to be used in a random semi-finals of an online tournament. After that, it hasn't been that successful anymore, Wadi. It only worked the first time.
Only worked the first time, look, that was a very important semi-final, right?
Yeah, he did win that weekly. So.
Well, there you go. It was needed, man. Those EPT points on the line every Monday.
Like, I'll catch up to Gabe eventually.
Someday. Observer on the way out from Drogo. We didn't see many of those last time around, as obviously much faster Storm here from him. Not really being as aggressive as quickly this time, so just a bit more of a macro focus, but Scarlett's really playing well for that with the Lurk Den so quickly.
And the economy, man. 91 drones. Yeah, Scarlett is like, alright, Drogo, if you're just gonna make Storm, Archons, and you just sit back and you force me to attack into you off creep, I'm gonna do the complete opposite of what I did in the previous game, where I'm not going to make a lot of units, even though our economy was fine, with like 80 plus drones, but I'm not going to make a lot of lair tech units. I'll present a much better army. And we'll see how well your army does against a bunch of Lurkers with hive tech upgrades. That's obviously going to be a bit more problematic. But with the way that this game has been paced so far, I do feel that Drogo should be able to get a pretty terrifying army, at least before both Lurker upgrades are done.
Yeah, no, I mean you would hope so, right? I mean it's going to take a while for Lurker upgrades to be here, and if Drogo does nothing before then, he's definitely inviting himself into a lot of trouble. As these Oracle's trying to do something, almost a lack of target firing, and one will go down. We get 3 drones in the end. As Lings catch the Zealots though, and that run by will go nowhere.
Drogo also now has a tough time scouting, because now if you look at the minimap, this is that kind of Scarlet crew spread that we always talk about, right? And something that we have been praising her for over the last 5 to 8 years, maybe even more. I guess we're closing in on 10.
Yeah.
Time flies, Wadi. And that's going to make it really hard for Drogo's army to get to the other side of the map. And it's going to even be hard for Oracles to get a great revelation of, right? Because you can kind of go into one of the outside bases and drop a revelation, but how on earth are you supposed to drop a revelation in the main base right now?
Yeah, I mean, almost impossible, right? There's just way too much vision as Lings again will catch the Zealots waiting on the watchtower. So Skull just playing the cleanup game and almost inviting Drogo like, hey, you're not allowed vision, you're not allowed to set up a run by. If you're going to come at me all at once, I should have Lurkers set up, even without the upgrades. That should be pretty decent defensively, so what are you going to do?
Drogo at least cleans up the center of the map a little bit and is already anticipating. What I have the feeling is honestly Broodlords. I think that was obviously more in the line of expectations, but maybe since Drogo has barely seen any gas units, he's like, nah, Scarlett does love Hydras and Lurkers, he's done this before. So we'll see. If it's going to be carriers, I think he's totally fine. If he goes Tempest here, I think he's in trouble. But even if we do go carriers, we need to start working on our air upgrades right here, right now, because otherwise 3-4 carriers, this is weird. Couple Archons by themselves, and I almost want to say we're freeing up supply, but
yeah, I mean, yeah, expensive units to be freeing up supply with. As we do see Scarlett losing a lot of those lings on the top side. They did get cleaned up. I mean, Scarlett's supply is far from impressive. Her work account's quite down. She's got a bit of money in the bank. But
she made a lot of static defenses, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess they're just preparing for the longer game, right? Just saying, you can't kill me. And now stun up the Spire, looking towards maybe Broodlords.
Pretty crazy to make 56 extra links now, but Adrenal Glands is finishing up. The links do already have +2. I know we have a Baning Nest. I don't know if we ever got Baning Speed. I don't remember seeing that. Okay, but it's done. I just haven't really seen a lot of commitment to it yet. I mean, Scarlett's supply might not be that impressive, but I do feel like her army is a lot better than Drogo's army. But now it's obviously important for Scarlett to get ready for the carriers. He's already had one 1+ hour game. I don't think that this game will ever go on for that long. But if Drogo gets his hands on 5 bases, and then there is a chance that we are going to get a very long game. First few carriers are out. These carriers don't have any upgrades yet, so there's plenty of potential for Lings and Lurkers. But there is still a remaining army. This is sexy multi-prong aggression, though.
Yeah, she's going to go 2 different ways and really start to deal damage. Into the natural expansion we go as well. This topside 5th base gone. And just the Lurkers doing a great job of zoning out the ground army from coming in to deal with this.
So good!
Ah, that's just so quick, man. Who needs the one-shot Banelings when you can just run the Lings in with Adrenal?
Yeah. Couple Zealots getting warped in, but you need to make sure you warp in a lot of Zealots. If it's like more than 8 Lings with +2 and Adrenal Glands, and even +3 is on the way. Drogo is going to test the waters. His army looks great. Drogo has a bit of money in the bank, but Scarlett has a lot of static defenses. If we can take a look at the amount of spines and spores we currently have on the map, that'd be useful information. 10 spores, 11 spores right now, and 8 spine crawlers. Yeah, we're going up to 16 spores. Good luck trying to end the game with 3 carriers. And maybe with 6 or 7 it's always possible. But with only 3, I wouldn't say it's possible. But this is still a terrifying army. Like, I feel like every second that goes by right now, eventually I think Scarlett will get closer and closer to getting more energy on her Vipers. A couple of Corruptors out, right? Maybe better upgrades on the Corruptors, but the next minute and a half are going to be very scary for Scarlett and all the Scarlett fans out there.
Let's see if she can hold on. I mean, obviously the Spore Crawlers will help her to buy a bit of time, but Drogo definitely should have some pushing potential. He's just got to try and find that right way in. The stack defense is scaring him off, and for now he will not commit through. He's just going to back it up, wait for further upgrades. He's got 3 more carriers still arriving. At that point, he might be able to go, but of course, by then, there's going to be so much more ready for Scarlett.
Yeah, I would say at this point, you wait for those extra carriers to show up, you chrono boost the hell out of +2 air weapons if you're Drogo, and then you close your eyes and you send it. I don't think you want to play the ultra late game against Scarlett, where Scarlett can actually catch up in the air upgrades. We see +1 air carapace on the way for those Corruptors. The Spore Crawler count will not start going down anytime soon. That will only be increased. I'm with you, Wadi. I think as soon as those extra carriers show up, Drogo should absolutely send it. And don't be afraid to lose a couple of those capital units. Just go for it. Try to get all the interceptors out and see how well you do. Ideally, you have +2 here, but even without it, like, it doesn't get much better than this, right? I feel like this is where you're probably going to have the biggest advantage for a long time if you're Drogo. I think he needs to go for it.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's now... Maybe not or never, but it's definitely now is one of the better times, right? Just that +2 is so close. He's still trying to get expansions up. It feels like it's going to be tough to keep those alive. The Lings can get there before the stag defense is up, but we'll see if Scarlett finds that chance. Drogo still does have the massive bank to rebuild on the back of, which is why maybe just go, right? And then rebuild during the fight. You can swarm a lot in. He is looking to find these Lings bottom right, but I mean, he's just cruising around, not really committing at all.
There was a chance for Drogo to fight against like 80-something army supply and a bunch of Spore Crawlers. And for sure, it's always scary when you see Vipers and you know that the Abducts are a possibility and Parasitic Bomb scares you because you're worried about one of these Parasitic Bombs killing all your interceptors. But I feel like in a minute from here on out, Scarlett's army is going to be so much better than it was a while ago. We have a few infestors out on the map now as well. I think it's mostly just for some, the combination of fungal and parasitic bomb. I think it's always very nice. Neurals down the line is a possibility. I don't think that Shroud really comes into play, but could be nice to buy some time for the Lurkers.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. Just a little bit of everything on the spellcaster front. 7 more Stargates, Roddy. Thoughts? Still extreme?
Yeah, a little extreme. I think at this point Drogo thinks he's a little bit richer than what he actually is, because that's actually a lot of resources that you could potentially need to rebuild, but Yeah, maybe in Drogo's mind, just absolutely nothing is going to happen in the next few minutes, and it's okay. I would actually also get Flux Veins and stuff in games like this, right? Because there is a chance that eventually you get a close fight. And if you talk about the reinforcements, we know that Zerg reinforcements will always be there, as these two armies are going to flirt with each other. Zerg army does seem more powerful though. And I feel like you don't always want to remax on carriers because they take so long. If you have a close fight and you're kind of doing well, you want to keep pushing, that's where you want to reinforce with Void Rays, I think. I don't want to start a fight with Void Rays, but I do love reinforcing fights with Void Rays.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. I think extra Voids coming on the back end, if you can get a bunch of them, could be very scary. Let's see, as again, Drogo just not really finding a way in at all, just almost gifting Archons away as Scarlett. In Drogo's credit, I guess, Scarlett is being outmined, right? Because Drogo has the top left base. Scarlett has not ventured out of 5 bases just yet. So that's where Scarlett might be in some trouble, yet she's actually mining more.
Yeah, cool. It's not your fault, Waddy. Technically, you're correct. That happens to me as well. It's like, oh, he has more bases, and then like the saturation is just slightly better on Scarlett's side. But you are making a very valid point. But I also don't think that Scarlett is particularly concerned about that at the moment, because he will just look at the bottom right side as, that's mine, right? Yeah. That belongs to me, and I will just make damn sure that Drogo will not start mining from any of those bases in the bottom right side, and then I don't care if you mine out your bases a bit quicker than I do mine. Like, the production tab really tells it all. Who has this favored, right? That this game went on and on. For Scarlett, there are so many promising things on the way, and Drogo, yeah, we're kind of just running up, but we do have a couple of Void Rays now. Can we take a look if he has Flux Veins, Observer, after?
No, he does not. You should just get it, right?
Cheap upgrade, yeah.
He's rich, he's going to start building some, and ooh, that is going to be the attempt to get these carriers out of here. One does get away, so... I mean, that's what Scarlett wants, right? Little picks, obviously always going to help. Just recreate some of that money of Drogo. It's always nice, and he really is going big on the Void Rays now.
I think Drogo has played a very impressive series, and I definitely think he's straight up stronger than a lot of people expected, as we do have that Flux Veins on the way now. But I do really feel that he missed a golden opportunity to potentially win the first series in this group. When it was 115 Trottles army supply, bunch of carriers, plus 2 air weapons on the way. It doesn't get much better than that. As these lurkers are obviously in a bit of a pickle. I got a couple of good shots off, but I also think that Scarlett probably feels it's not so much about the lurkers anymore, and it's going to be a lot more about the Corruptors.
Corruptors, maybe if you ultras to help buff up on the ground, you do want something to still stop that ground army from just running rampant into your Corruptors. But yeah, Lings, Corruptors for the moment, and we are going to get some nice abducts here. Looking for the carriers, we get one of them in a moment, and the Storms will try and block off the second and will be good enough.
Templar getting picked up there as well by the Broodlords. Broodlings just chipping away at a couple of these Protoss units on the ground. The problem as well with a couple of these little dances is that a lot of the carriers, even if they don't fall, that's actually kind of nice for Scarlett, because that means when the big bad fight happens, it actually is the game deciding fight. A lot of the carriers are going to die a lot quicker than they normally would. Now it will only take a single volley rather than the 2 volleys or the 3 volleys that it would take for a full HP carrier to fall. So don't always think that it's bad for Scarlett if an abduct lands and she doesn't get the kill. I feel like if anything, it actually helps her way down the line.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. I mean, damage is damage. You'll just soften things up for later, and well, Drogo
like, that's not a real carrier body. That's a Phoenix right there.
It's a Phoenix.
It's a very fat Phoenix, but it's a Phoenix.
Not quite sure about being a Phoenix, but yeah. I mean, definitely just exposed, right? Just dies too easily. As these Lings just going to block off the Zealots, and Scarlett does begin to take that bottom right. He said she would eventually, and yeah, now is that sort of time where she starts to stretch out over there. As Drogo moves forward, he still has a huge bank if he can find a fight, but right now, every time he moves forward, he's just losing a unit or two and not really getting anything out of it. We're storming Broodlings, which is not really ideal. He cannot find a way in, and that's frustrating, but that's the game he's putting on himself right now.
I know I've been talking a lot about observers, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it is very important to have two observers. Okay, we have I didn't see it with the army, because I do believe that Neuroparasite is done for Infestors, and the last thing you want to do is start the game deciding fight. Okay, they're in the center of the army, so that's very good. Very important to keep those observers alive, otherwise Neuro could suddenly become a much bigger problem than it should be.
Good catch on some of the stack defense as it was building. It was just going to have that single ultra getting chased by interceptors, but it makes it back to the maze of spores, so Drogo turns around, but he wants to hit this bottom right base while the stack defense isn't there. That could be one of his better options to get a good denial. And if he can keep Scarlett off this base for a long time, then yeah, Scarlett might have trouble with kind of keeping on rebuilding. Her money in the bank is not exactly the greatest. It's not troubling just yet, but it's going to mine out a lot faster. It's going to run out a lot faster than Drogo's is. As this fight continues along, and we are going to commit. Scarlett's Corrupt is going to start chewing through these carries, and Drogo's realizing this was not a good decision. We get a couple late Neurals going down. But yeah, just great job from Scarlett. Again, a great fight.
And it wasn't even a fight. That was a beatdown. Nothing really. Oh my god, how many Void Rays at once? 10 Void Rays. We are reinforcing the army with 10 Void Rays, but a bit of a disaster. Ooh, I had to sneeze, buddy. You saved me and I couldn't find my mute button. But no, I don't even deserve a bless you because it wasn't an all-out sneeze, but it's all good. Obviously, that was not the fight for Drogo, but at this point, I also often run out of things. Like the one thing that a pros player can absolutely do is drop revelation after revelation and land feedbacks. It really is a dance between the High Templars and the Vipers. I have to admit that I've never been on the right side of that dance myself, especially once Broodlords are out, but you know, Corruptors are not that scary if the Carriers and Void Rays have an upgrade advantage, but at this point the Corruptors are so tanky, they're so powerful. I don't know how to take a good fight here if you're in Drogo's shoes.
Yeah, my only thought was maybe if Scarlett comes a bit too far forward, right, and then Drogo can catch the army a bit too far forward with the fast reinforcing Void Rays, then perhaps, but yeah, Spellcaster is still there, so the Fungal, the Parasitic Bomb is actually just stacked on the Void Rays right now. It's only shield damage for the moment, but I mean, obviously now they're weak and should probably reconsider the next time they want to fight.
Yep, and we can't recall out anymore because we've already done that. It's not going to get any easier for Drogo. Who has an Immortal on the way now? I guess an Immortal just to get a couple shots off on the Ultra or two that are on the ground, but it's not just about the Ultra, right? There's still Broodlords lying around. We're gonna have a couple of Lings with +3 and Adrenal Glands. Scarlett have like every upgrade in the Zerg book, or what?
Yeah, I mean, it stretches across almost the entire screen.
What are we missing? Overlord speed, maybe? No, we have that. Roach speed.
Roach speed?
Yeah.
Yeah, never had Roach wrong. Makes sense.
Incomplete game.
Two more robots from Drogo wants to make sure he's got the production he needs for any situation. As we just continue around here, and just going to be having our Voids, Carriers, High Templar continuing through. It's just going to be seen our army of Drogo is really looking for an opportunity here to make its way in to try and get on top of maybe a couple of these positions. It's going to be coming through. And looking to see what can happen, but nothing so far, just clearing out a little bit of creep spread. Just going to be having Drogo again, just meandering around without really much aim or focus.
Yeah, I'm sad to see this because this kind of reminds me of a lot of the games that I feel like we casted in 2017, beginning of 2018, and it just kept on happening. And that's why I was so happy when Stats actually just decided to attack Serral once at the finals of the Stay-at-Home Story Cup. And yeah, they called it the Ruddy back then. But I was praying for any Protoss to just attack when they have a 2-air upgrade advantage rather than sitting back. And obviously not every attack is always going to work, and that's okay. I do feel if you let it go to this phase in the game, it is so damn difficult. The only thing you can hope for is indeed that the Zerg play, I think, truly makes a mistake. Takes a bad fight, maybe near battery overcharge, because that could still be very impactful, or just does something terribly wrong with the Vipers or Infestors. But I just think it's terrifying to fight this many Corruptors with +3 attack, but more importantly +3 armor, because that just makes them very tanky boys in disguise, and it makes the Carriers suddenly look a little bit less impressive than they would have done 8 or 10 minutes ago.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And again, every single fight here as well is just likely to happen around a bunch of Spore Crawlers. As Drogo's actually going to lose a bit of a base up here as well. So Scarlett striking for the first time in a long time. As we do see the recall across, start getting rid of some of those harassing units. That recall now used though, so that's one thing Scarlett can consider, that Drogo has a little bit less mobility available. Maybe can do something else. Maybe the Ultra start going to the other side of the map, for example. Get a little bit more done in the next few moments, perhaps.
I'm gonna ask you the 800 resource question, Marty. Mama ship, yes or no?
I mean, I feel like why not, right? You're rich enough? You're rich enough, it helps, it makes it a little bit tougher for the Zerg to sometimes pick that fight. You can hide things a little bit underneath it. I don't hate it. In a game like this,
No, I'm not judging. I was just curious.
I know you just don't want to make a commitment. You don't.
No, I think in this day and age they are better. Like my hate from the Mothership mostly came from when the Vipers had one more range than the High Templars did, and I thought at that point it was absolutely useless. I think in this phase in the game when you have this many units, you can see me as well. I still remember where Lambo shouting at me in a jacuzzi back then at Home Circuit Cup. He's like, "You really want one more carry and one High Templar over a Mothership?" I was like, "Yes, Lambo, I would." He's like, "All right, I'm done having this conversation." But that was obviously before the Vipers got nerfed a little bit, or the High Templars got better in that dance. I'm kind of surprised to not see it, but I'm also not upset about it. I guess it's just player personal preference in this day and age, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Worth noting maybe that Scarlett's prepping for eventually losing her main base. Infestation Pit and Spire on the way up. I can only imagine that is elsewhere, just in case you lose one location on the map, because the bottom right becomes much more of a stronghold for you now and work in that corner than anywhere else, right? So just good to see those preparations being made, because we've seen it in times, right? You lose your production, all of a sudden you've got to wait for that to come back online. Gives the Protoss a good timing.
For everyone that just joined the mainstream, this is our opening series of the day. We've got 7 or 8 more series after this, and this is the opening series of this group, second group stage. I believe this was Group H that is complemented by Zaun and Jishi. They've been done for roughly half an hour. And I also have one more question for you, Wari. How badly do you think those admins in Atlanta are sweating right now over their schedule?
Oh, when Scarlett's got more ZVPs to play after this, no matter what, yeah. I wouldn't be too happy if I was the admins.
Because in the first group stage, it was shown on the B stream or the C stream, Scarlett had a game that lasted 1 hour and 9 minutes against the German Protoss player Gong Fu Banda.
Yeah, she's feeling it then. I mean, yeah, this can go on a long time, so I'm the admins. I might want to look at those races you put Scarlett within group stage 3, you know? Maybe give us some ZVZs.
That Nexus fell very quickly. Can we just take a look at the carrier? Oh, that's a big fungal, but I don't think there's anything else. So we're looking at 13 carriers and 11 Void Rays against... How many Corruptus do we have? 31. Yeah, that's going to be tough.
Nice feedbacks, by the way. He's hitting a few of them. He's still getting fungal, but getting a couple units as well. Looks like Drogo is... I was going to say, he almost find a way in, but then you see the field of Spore Crawlers and he ain't going anywhere.
That's a lot of gas for Drogo in the bank, by the way.
10k, pretty nice.
You do not sound impressed. What is like, I float that on a daily basis, mate.
Mate, I think I found 10k off 3 bases before.
What is like, I don't even max out and I've got 10k gas in the bank. I don't know what you're talking about. As one more carrier does get picked off.
Yeah.
It's I'm in pain, man. I really wish that Drogo... I wish that we could just resume this game from replay at the 11-12 minute mark when Drogo had a 35-40 army supply advantage, +1 air weapons. That was not fantastic. It could have already been +2, but just fight a couple Spore Crawlers. They cannot be all that scary. I feel like I have casted this game around 27 times and the Protoss has never won. Now I'm not telling you that it won't ever happen. I'm sure there is a chance, but I feel like the Protoss never wins.
Don't you have a famous quote? No one does it 30 times in a row.
That is true. Maybe Drogo eventually will get all the spellcasters and we'll land a couple of big storms and this golden armada will shine brighter than it's ever done before, but I've kind of blocked these games from America because we haven't seen them in a very long time, but up to that point of the stay-at-home Circuit Cup number 3, I believe it was, this was actually like a speech that I had on almost every single game. I remember the games are romanticized. I'm sure you remember a few with Skillers as well. And I'm like, Nikita, I love you, please attack! And they never did. Oh.
I remember a few times we were here in Stockholm in this very studio, Roddy, and we watched quite a lot of games like this as well. A lot of our online season finals.
Yeah, the season finals back then, yeah, that's correct.
We had a lot of PVZs that looked like this. We had a best of 7 that no one wanted to really cast because we were scared it was going to look like this.
A few more banelings crashing into the static defenses, and Drogo will once more use a recall. I feel like we've seen that quite a few times for the last few minutes. It's 158 army supply against 166, as we do have an abduct landing. The storms there are quite big, as I do believe the Oracle died to a storm there as well. Drogo is just making sure that he's going to get all the air upgrades too. Obviously does help a little bit. Viper count is very low. That's obviously something that Scarlett will need to work on. I feel like at this point, the more Vipers, the merrier. Don't want to go too crazy, but I'd say 5, 6 is... Yeah, you can absolutely justify that.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. It's just go, go, go. Get as many as you want. As high, greatest spire in the bottom right again. That's just preparation for... Because, I mean, Drogo is just a short flight away from killing the main base and the production there. So Scarlett is just happy to give that up and prep to play around it. She's going to start making her way to the top right. Remember, if Scarlett breaks through into the main and the natural of Drogo, there are 10 Stargates there. That's an expensive rebuild.
Yep. One more carrier is getting saved by battery overcharge. It's been a little while since we saw battery overcharge come in clutcher.
Yeah.
To see that it's still there.
It's a rare occasion in a game like this, it's going to come in clutch as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but sometimes, like, if this is a Neep game, right? Like, Neep would like, start building pylons and cannons and batteries all in the center of the map, where and then a random nexus as well, just to make sure that he can overcharge. And no matter how big the fungals and the parasitic bombs are, battery overcharge is still going to heal up shields for a couple thousand hit points, right? And that can definitely make a very big difference. So it may seem silly, but I actually really don't hate that, and I do know that Scarlett absolutely hates that, and that's why I feel like Scarlett does not want to play games like this against Neep, because Neep is obviously also a Tempest guy. Maybe some people out there are wondering why no Tempest. I personally get it. Like, in theory, they're always very good, but I just feel like it's so damn hard to keep them alive, and then when the big fight does take place, they literally do negative DPS. They just don't make the difference at all. It's something that requires a lot of practice. Even if it looks silly, you really need to play an insane amount of late game PvZs like that to be comfortable with the Tempest. Someone like Neep is, but I really can't blame Drogo for not going into the Tempest at all.
Oh yeah, absolutely. As every day you see the abduct on the High Templar, and Ultra goes down in return though, so they trade out a unit again, and a little bit of creep will be denied in the middle. As we sit and we have our spellcasters. Only 3 Vipers. You feel like we should have a couple more maybe? Probably happy with
3 is a bare minimum I would like to see, but I personally think that 5 or 6 is fine, because there is always a chance that 1 or 2 feedbacks do land. I do believe that Drogo has a few High Templars inside of that War Prism, and the one way that I can see Scarlett absolutely lose this game is if she takes a game-deciding fight without any single parasitic bombs going down. The para bombs are so important to A, damage the Void Rays and kill the Void Rays, and B, reduce the amount of interceptors, right? So it really is ultra important, and it is what makes the difference in how a lot of these fights play out.
Oh, Fungal Growth going down. High Templar will survive it, but there's another one coming forward. It's a Neural Parasite! Okay, that was fun.
Yeah. How many got feedback there? Looked like 2 or 3, right?
Yeah, I saw a couple go off, I think.
There are still 4 High Templars inside of that War Prism, but I'm sure that's something that Scarlett is quite well aware of.
Absolutely. Is Scarlett trying to play the catch-up on the mineral game, by the way. She's also reaching 10k.
I'm richer than you. This is where Clara shows up and he's like, let me show you. We're like, we get it, James. You cast a lot of PUBG, okay? Move on.
Yeah, James has seen banks like this every day. It's nothing special.
James is doing his best to spend it, just like these guys are. But James is also maxed out in life. He's got it all. Castle in Poland, BMW. It was a bit dirty, by the way, before he left. So
yeah.
Not like his life is not perfect either, Waddy.
I actually had someone move the seat in his BMW.
No way.
Yeah, I've heard this story twice now. Really tough. Really tough. 2 Oracles building from Drogo. As we sit and we wait. You remember that moment, Roddy, where you said you didn't think this was going to go an hour and 10?
I still don't think it's going to go an hour and 10, but...
I mean, an hour and 10 is tough, but...
Yeah, that's very tough. But it's definitely going on a lot longer than I expected, just because I really expected Drogo to pull the trigger. And at first, I was very hopeful of it. Like, I always kind of liked how Scarlett played this game, and I thought Scarlett played very good in the first 8 to 10 minutes. Imagine running into the main base and seeing this, by the way. This is something straight out of a campaign mission, man. This is what you see in co-op, as we do have a couple of abducts land -3 carriers, and this may just seem like a tiny dent in the economy of Drogo, but yeah, I know you've been here many times. It's the same song and dance. If this keeps on happening, no matter how rich you are, eventually you run out of money. Yeah, you're good at math. You impressed me yesterday. How many carriers can Drogo build of his current bank?
That's a tough question. How much to carry exactly?
I think it's like 350, 250 or something.
350, 250. So yeah, you're probably limited on minerals. So what, like 10, 20, about 30?
Yeah, so let's say you can build like 33, 34 carriers of this. Marty's gonna double check it right now because we have nothing else to do. So it may not seem like that big of a deal when 2 carriers get abducted and someone is rich, but it really does start adding up, and that's how Protoss players often go broke. And
34.
Yeah, that was close enough. Good job there, buddy.
I couldn't.
I was gonna go with it.
Easy, I couldn't find the slash on the keyboard. I had to type divided by. It's a tough life over here on the caster desk, guys.
Yeah, and don't forget that you obviously always need a mineral bank, right, to
Yes.
win a game with carriers, because there are a lot of sport crawlers, and we've definitely seen a couple games where the Protoss player technically has a way bigger army, except for the fact that it's an army that does not fight. I was wondering, by the way, do you think that carriers by default, as a bonus, you know, a little discount, should have always one interceptor? You know, it's kind of like a
The
bargain.
guarantee.
Yeah, the first one is for free, and then the other 7 you have to pay for. What do you think of that? It would have definitely changed the outcome of a lot of games.
Yeah, right. If you have like 10 carriers left with 1 interceptor each,
Yeah.
compared to nothing, yeah, sure, of course. Some crazy games we've seen that have gone down to like 0 interceptors and like
Maybe that should be an upgrade in the fleet beacon.
an upgrade. The guaranteed
It's a
interceptor.
guaranteed one interceptor. Make it 500 at 500, but make it seem...
Pays out in very rare situations.
I would definitely always get it done again.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, you don't want to lose because you didn't get the upgrade that gives you a free interceptor for carrier.
We saw the TSL, right? Showtime.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
The carriers run out of interceptors, they run away and they just can't do anything. It's a sad state of affairs.
If only the Protoss bargain was a thing. Draw. No, there's 0%
way.
chance that this is ever a draw. I like the effort. I mean,
why not?
I would definitely take it as a Protoss, where I'm like, yeah, I'll take a draw here, but no, this is never going to be a draw. Obviously, draws for the people that don't watch StarCraft 2 24/7. There are some very rare moments where a draw is a real thing, and a draw can also be a real thing while there are still some units. But obviously, like let's say the Terran player has a bunker and wins near the bunker, the Protoss player wins near the battery. Neither player wants to move out. But this game, there are still way too many resources left. The armies are way too big. The micro potential is way too big. This should never be a draw scenario, unless both players just somehow think that there is indeed no way that, you know, the Zerg can ever win near the Protoss side of things, and the Protoss can never win on creep. But this would be a very bizarre draw to me, and I am happy to see that Scarlett does absolutely not agree to one.
Yeah, that would make absolutely no sense.
No.
That is... Like you say, I like the effort. Why not ask? Scarlett might have forgotten how to win the game from here.
Imagine how fast the heart started to beat of the ESO admin there. He's like, oh my god.
They're gonna do it
They're
again.
gonna do it! See the sweat dripping down his face. He's looking at his watch. He's like, oh my god, what's trouble?
The rest of Group Stage 2 is finished. Scarlett and Drogo replaying the 3rd time.
You're
JSD.
joking right now, but take a look at Wikipedia actually. I'm sure that
Yeah.
1 or 2 groups are
Ooh.
close. Wow!
Trigger 2-0 out of the group in first
Oh
place.
my goodness. Basilisk Gaming Trigger defeating Lambo on LAN after already defeating Sue. And he's got a new hero, man. That's big. And wow, what a showing so far by that young Canadian. That's amazing.
Damn, that's really sick. Apparently Bunny Horston looks like it's 1-1 as well, by the way, in a winners match. So that's really sick.
Banger.
Damn. Mana beat Spirit too in the first round.
And I love that we have a Polish national championship in Atlanta.
Plus Dolan.
I mean, maybe Dolan has some Polish roots. Who knows?
Yeah.
What else do we have? Are those all the groups?
Yeah, there's 2 at the bottom.
Juanito off to a win over...
Yeah, he beat Vindicta.
They're actually friends as well, and they've done a lot of coaching together, so kind of sad for Vindicta to go up against Juanito. And then we're just waiting for the result of this opening match of Group H. The winner of this best of 3 will move on to play against the Chinese Protoss Jishi. The loser will play against Sound, but if you lose in the group stage, you're not eliminated from the tournament. There is still that big knockout bracket. But we are absolutely not going to explain in which round of the knockout bracket you end up in. And since you're gonna face somebody that lost before you in the group stage, but then won a round in the knockout bracket.
Yeah. The knockout bracket is playing as we speak. Mixu beat Raza.
Mixu. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually kind of a sick
And now
first round match.
Mixu Foxer, what a fun match. Like 2 guys that if you follow the community, if you're close to StarCraft, Mixu versus Foxer is a very fun community match. And also M. Kenning against Genio, the Korean Terran player. That's a fun one too.
Ah, that's some fun first round knockout bracket games and second round knockout bracket games going on.
Hey Marty, do you want to play the over on the game for me?
What, for the 5 minutes?
No. The amount of... Don't show it, Observer. How many spore crawlers do we currently have on the map?
Ooh,
I will set the line for you. Over or under 47?
over.
Over?
Yeah.
Easy over?
Yeah, I think so.
Alright, show the result to us. How many spore crawlers? Oh my goodness.
84. My guess was I was going to guess 73. It was very easy when you said 40.
I said 47.
I mean, yeah, but like in the 40s was an easy over for me.
Yeah, correct. I mean, the line was terrible.
The line was terrible. It's an
Plus
instant
800.
all in.
2 happy links with +3 melee made it into the natural to start working on a couple of production facilities. Seems that DreamHack is getting a little more eager to potentially make something happen. The Broodlord count is at 8. Corruptor count is at 38. I just look at this Zerg army and I feel the Zerg army is so much better than the Protoss army. Not if the Corruptors wouldn't have +3, right? That I would absolutely believe, but if Corruptors max out on their upgrades, it's crazy how important these air upgrades are. I still feel that's the one thing. Now, obviously, I've memed about it a lot, and I know that Lamba has been teasing me about it in the past while I was talking about it, and Raynor too, but it's okay. I feel like we always talk about upgrades for ground units, like, wow, the Marines have 2-2, the Zealots have 1-1, the Zealots stand no chance, but for some reason people think that when it comes to air units, this matters less, but it's just as extreme, if not a lot more extreme. Yeah. It's just that you see it a little bit less, so people don't really make that connection, where it's so obvious with the Zealots, if they are good armor upgrades and the Marines don't have good attack upgrades, but it really is a night and day difference when the Protoss is an upgrade or 2 upgrades ahead versus a Zerg play that's actually even on upgrades, and suddenly these battles just really favor the Zerg.
Can't believe 3 Stalkers scared away the Corruptors. They just warped in 3 Stalkers, stopped all the caustic spray.
How's the unit's lost resource stat, by the way? I haven't looked at that in ages. Wow, okay.
Thank goodness. It's bad for DreamHack, to say the least.
Yeah, that does not look good. Lost 16,200 resources more in the 42-minute game. We have a little fungal landing, a slightly bigger fungal landing. I believe that War Prism is part of that as well, and that's obviously carrying some very precious cards.
Oh, High Templar in your ult. I was going to look for something, but is instead just going to be brought forward and...
Beat back the Oracle!
Oh, do something, anything. Kill it. It goes down.
Maybe we can feed and we can also Neuro the Oracle and then Revelate the Protoss army.
keep track of the Protoss army.
I actually think once the fight takes place, looking at the unit step is going to be very fun, even though it blocks a little bit of our screen. But the 120 interceptors, that is a key amount of units, obviously, to keep your eye on. If that rapidly drops to like 28, 24 while the battle is happening, you already know that the Protoss is never winning that fight. If the interceptor count while the fight is taking place stays high, then there is a chance, by the way. And I'm feeling a little fight brewing over here, Wardy. Are you feeling it too?
I don't know. I've learned better than to expect fights in this PvZ, mate.
Feeling a little fight
High
brewing.
Templar. Okay, Roddy, you're right. We lost 3 High Templar. That's more units than we've lost in a long time.
One more fungal, and I think the Corruptors would have gone for it.
Drogo's just draining resources, man. He doesn't have the gas compared to Skull. We're pretty much mined out on Drogo's side as well. He's going to start giving up probes. So, yeah.
Oh my god. You know what Scarlett should have done is Neuro a probe, build a Nexus, start building her own carriers.
I was just going to say build some batteries, but then I was like, what are they going to heal?
Tempest. What about Tempest? Actually, Tempest would be very good for Scarlett.
Yeah. Not wrong.
No, DreamHack's going to build Tempest. Does he have the Tempest upgrade? I don't think so, right? The orange balls.
Oh.
Testonic destabilizer.
No, he doesn't. No. Worth getting anything? Shoot down some spores.
I feel like if you wanted to play that game, you should have done it a long time
half an hour ago.
Yeah, and then you should have been doing the
entire time.
Yep. And obviously the Nexus in the center of the map, all the cannons, all the batteries. DreamHack's down to 1 work.
Yep, I mean, he has absolutely no reason, he has nowhere to mine from, so he's just going to get completely maxed out. Maybe keep 1 probe in case you need to rebuild some stuff, but yeah, that's going to be the plan. High Templar gets abducted in, some of the interceptors are flirting, and the Brutes are going quite far forward as they are sniping a couple of High Templar on the ground. One of them was surrounded but got away.
How much larva? Only 36. That's a bit underwhelming, actually. Shouldn't it be way higher? I expected it to be around like 70 or 80 at this point.
Guess it depends. Yeah. Maybe expect a few more.
I feel like with the bank that Scarlett has, having only 36 larva, that...
Yeah, I mean, that's what, it's going to rebuild, what, like 80 supply? It's not
72. 36 times 2.
You might do a couple of things that cost more than 2.
Yeah, but we're mostly going to build Corruptors then.
Well, yeah, but you never know, Roddy.
Okay, fine. -2 carriers again, we mentioned this a while ago. It does not seem like a big deal, because DreamHack's bank was so big, but it really does start adding up. He had money for around 34 carriers since we did that little calculation, which Wardy absolutely nailed, by the way. We've lost 8, 9 carriers, right? It starts adding up, and slowly but steady, this is just gonna look more and more grim.
Yeah. I mean, you only have 7,000 gas, which only, right? But in a game like this, like 7k gas is not a lot. That's
it sounds like so much. We're gonna now do the thing that we mentioned a long time ago, and then it makes sense that we have gone into Tempest. You may as well do have another abduct landing. Scarlett, this is getting pickoff after pickoff. This is obviously where the Broodlords will really come in handy, as these queens got a little bit far forward. Wadi, is this the moment we've been waiting for?
Apparently it might be. Scarlett ran forward, she took a couple storms in the face and decided, nope, don't like the weather, gonna turn back around and just gonna let this location come online. I guess Drogo, I don't mind him doing this because in a way it's using up minerals that he's not going to be able to use elsewhere, but maybe just like you said, I mean, if you're going to do it, then do it ages ago, because it would have only benefited you sooner than this, as now the Broodlords are going to start picking away at the shield batteries that were just built. This is where you need those Tempests to start hitting. Then the couple carriers on the right side are exposed as well. They're brand new, and the Viper is going to go straight for one of them and hits the Prism with the High Templar inside. That's an even juicier pickoff.
Yeah, that's 450 gas down the drain.
Yeah, that's expensive. 118 interceptors. I think we're still good on that count for now.
Shield batteries definitely not really coming into play so far. Broodlords making easy work of them. There are a couple batteries on the left side. Tempest, will they be able to get a couple shots up? Yes, they do. That's -1 Broodlord. Drogo looking for a second.
I mean, that's kind of what we need, right? Just slowly do something. It feels like Drogo's not been killing anything this entire time, which is why Scarlett's bank has finally overtaken his. And yeah, it's just a waiting game of, I guess, Scarlett picking off little by little. Drogo maybe overcommits at some point. He's going to keep on adding these batteries, and he's just going to sit right here above these batteries and just wait for things to be done.
It's almost like Neep held up a cheer for on this side. He's like, Drogo, that is the batteries.
Use your minerals.
Yes. Drogo's like, got you. Thank you, Alex.
Giving the Broodlords in again, some Broodlings dropping down, and well, so far everything that's been built on this right side hasn't fared well, and I don't think this next is faring fairly well at all. As we are going to get some shots off on the Broodlords though. I think we killed one. Here's some abducts though. Tempest goes down, the Warp Prism goes down again. We get a storm off on the carriers, sorry, on the Corruptors. I feel like that was maybe a moment where Drogo wanted to try and leap forward a bit, but just couldn't get there. And Scarlett will go and...
With the positioning of these armies, by the way, can Scarlett just kind of hover her Corruptors a little bit more towards the right, as you can just pick up the reinforcements over and over again? Like, how on earth are those Tempests that are being built on the right side right now supposed to sync up with his main army? Unless you rally them all the way to the top right. But yeah, nobody does that, because nobody can be bought at. Like, that's actually juicy, man. If you have your Corruptors here in the center, and 6, 7, 8 units are coming out of these Stargates, and that bank will get drained even quicker. But there are no more resources for Drogo. 5.3k means that now all that we have really money left for is, what is that, Wadi? 17 carriers? 16? Maybe a bit more.
I mean, I guess it's based on the gas at this point, right? So
maybe
20, just under 21.
Gonna get more and more dire. That's a lot of spore crawlers. You know, this amount of batteries, normally you think like, that's a lot of batteries, but when you look at the amount of spores, you're like, no, it's not too many batteries.
You're right, it's not. 103 spore crawlers already.
It's pretty good. Scarlett now doing what we mentioned. There are carriers there, by the way. Those would be juicy pickups. That's the first one going down. Void Rays now getting a little bit ahead of themselves. Obviously, Voids are good, but they need to be so careful, because we have another abduct landing on another carrier. And things are getting worse and worse. We have a little fungal connecting with those 3 Stalkers. Scarlett obviously knows that this is going perfectly fine for her. She knows that this is an important series. A difficult group with 2 other scary Protoss players in it. And she's going to play it ultra safe.
Yep.
We might make it to the 1 hour mark. Kind of see it in the webcam there, right? Drogo does not look like he's really enjoying himself anymore. Played a good series, especially that second game. Did a very good job in weathering the storm, surviving. It was action-packed, it was fun. This third game, for me, it kind of went out like a candle. And it's not over yet. We can obviously still have something crazy happening where Scarlett does do something silly. But I feel Scarlett has way too much experience under her belt to do something silly and throw away a game like this.
Oh, the Corruptor's going to get another one of these carriers. And all these Stargates, if they just go down, right, it's just going to be... It's expensive to replace. You know, and Drogo's on the least money he's had in a long time, so
these things are so good, man.
Placement would be bad, and yeah, you're forcing this army to move places you don't really want it to as Drogo with this little run by or a drop in of Scarlett. And this is where the Corruptors are likely to get more opportunity.
Why the carrier's not doing anything?
I have no idea. I think he's too afraid to bring them forward. He's afraid of where the Corruptors are, but...
Maybe it is. Like, imagine if Scarlett would have gone for a Infestor or two in the Tropoloids, burrow them in the main base.
They are just to the side of the main.
That'd be a play.
Yeah, they're just to the bottom left of the main base, but they never got a chance to make themselves known. Scarlett says, hey, you know what's good? Spore Crawlers. Let's get a few more of those.
I'm saying that this has been one hell of a warm-up, Cas. You know, you always gotta try to find your rhythm in a tournament. We're all excited. We've been here for 2.5 days in Stockholm. We were ready for these games to start, and you're always like, all right, hope I have a fun series, just to get, you know, the mood and the spirit going. I'm well warmed up, man.
Cheeky hour and a half, best of 3. Yeah. Nice way to start things out, Roddy.
No,
you know what? I'd rather have this now than 8 hours time, though.
Oh, absolutely. But it's also always nice to have this, like, and actually being part of it, because if you're upstairs,
yeah, you start and nothing's happening. Yeah,
it is waiting. As we have a couple of upducts landing, Oracle gets picked up, Voidray gets picked up. I do want to mention, we spoke about it roughly 15-20 minutes ago. The Mama ship, buddy. It's making an appearance.
It is here, yeah. I mean, I like it. Go back to what I said. I think it's a great choice. Glad Drogo listened in and decided to go with what I said. And yeah, we'll see if it can make a difference. Even just like recalling around, maybe, right?
Yeah, like at this point, I would almost say indeed try to rally the mothership in a weird way to the corner of the map and recall behind enemy lines and just go for it. Some sort of a Hail Mary play. Because Drogo has to be completely aware of the fact that this is not heading in his direction. This has not been a game where Drogo has been mining of 2 more bases, where it's okay to trade up a bit more product. By the way, there were minerals left.
Yeah, there was.
Vespian Geyser.
Yeah.
I don't know how much, but that's surprising to see. But I guess Drogo does not care about minerals and it's mostly about gas. Drogo has to be aware that, like, if this goes on for another 20 minutes, he never wins. Like, he just does not win these games. A while ago, there was a 16,000 resource loss difference. Can we take another look at that, Njal? I mean, that is mental, mate. That's 28k.
Yeah. There's absolutely ridiculous amounts of damage done. And Scarlett just, yeah, she has the bank still to show it. Just going to lift up here, get back out, just forcing Drogo to keep on moving around and just doing little moves, never really overcommitting, right? Just, you know, Scarlett's never been too far forward. She's never invited Drogo to take a fight that he's going to be good for him. And yeah, I mean, Drogo's not really done the same, but Scarlett's been way better, obviously, than picking off a unit here and a unit there with those abducts, and that has made a world of difference.
I'm just chuckling because I remember having a little conversation with our talent manager right before the game started. I think he's relatively new to StarCraft, but he seemed interested, so we gave him a little rundown of what to expect. And I was like, average game length, 10, 11 minutes. I was like, most of the real good games that can last like between 16 and 20. Over 20 minutes, it happens. We're definitely going to see it a couple of times. It's quite rare. And I was like, you don't have to worry about games that last an hour. Like, that happens like 2 or 3 times a tournament at best. But the chance of that happening on the mainstream, it's not all that big. I bet he's sitting there, he's like, man, that Dutch guy, he's just straight up lying. Why did you do that?
Yeah, we'll be done in like 3 hours. It's like 7 hours later.
This is a real commitment.
Yeah,
it's obviously not going very good, as a lot of the Void Rays have just died to the Spore Crawlers. Waddy, this is kind of a fight, but I feel like it's not much of a fight so far. Intercept count still going steady at 90, but parasitic bomb and fungals.
I mean, yeah, all of a sudden, right, Drogo just pulled the trigger, and it was unfortunately just never going to work. I mean, Scarlett waited so long to engage because she's just like, I'm going to let my spores do the work. This is the problem. Drogo has never really had an opportunity to fight on in. He's never really had a potential battle here, and you can see why, because this was always waiting to happen. And as Scarlett knocks these carriers out of the sky, they just cannot get through the Corruptors fast enough. The Broodlords are picking off the reinforcing and Stargates, and Drogo is going to be all out of cash, and Scarlett is going to be absolutely fine and dandy to take this series 2-1.
They survived so long, by the way, those Corruptors.
Yeah,
I was like, you know what? Drogo is actually going to kill all the Corruptors here. And I was like, right? Right? Eventually, as a bunch of Overseers are going to show up now as well. Can be annoying because Tempest attacks so slowly. And if they do shoot at an Overseer, you get sad. We have a couple of extra Void Rays showing up, but it is not going to make the difference. Scarlett has money for days. Drogo does not. And after 55 minutes, Drogo is forced to tap out. Scarlett wins her opening series here in group stage, still 2-1 over Drogo, who I think played excellent. But I truly wish, Waddy, that we could turn back the hands of time and just see Drogo pull the trigger at minute 12, 13. When he had a couple carriers, he had